get back into the new releases.
Yeah.
The first Syrah, if we can, please. So we're moving again in terms of in Stellenbosch, so we're back up north to the Devon Valley here.
Yeah, the mighty Devon.
And, you know, as we said before, there's out of these 6 wines, 5 of them are on granite, and then there's this one.
Yeah, so this one's like on the complete opposite of what granite gives you, I'd say. It's this real, like, you know, granite is very sort of poor and weak, and which is great in a lot of ways. But nutrient rich, it is not. But the other sort of side of the story, and, you know, water holding granite is terrible. But the other side of the story is sort of dark iron rich clay, which is what the Devon Valley kind of has. And that's the exact opposite. Holds water, very nutrient rich, very sort of powered and structured soils. And that's where we find this Syrah. So this all kind of came across from us wanting to find basically the antithesis of our Forest Syrah, for anyone that ever had that back in the day. You know, the Forest Syrah is on exactly the same soils as the Cinsault, or slightly rockier, but that poor, weak, sort of weathered soil. Whereas, you know, as I just said, the Devon Valley is the complete opposite, rich and structured. And we basically did it because we wanted to have two Syrahs of completely different sort of geological style. Yeah, and then we had no idea if it was going to be delicious or tasty or suited what we wanted to do, but it just turned out to sort of work for us, in a sense.
And in terms of dealing with different soil types, is it a different learning process you've gone through from, you know, dealing with granitic vineyards on granite so much to something with a heavier, denser soil? Has that been a learning process for you, or has it been there's not much difference?
Yeah, quite drastically. I mean, the picking window is obviously very different.
Okay.
Not obviously, but just because you've got those cooler soils and those hot spells we have, they can withstand that sort of heat spike much better than a granitic soil.
Right, okay.
But I think the biggest one is actually the growing season itself. So, you know, they're very vigorous soils. So you've got to be careful about having too much greenery, I guess. And Syrah itself being an extremely vigorous variety, it's kind of not the ideal combination. So the grower and I...
It's a bit weedy, isn't it? Sort of like,
yeah, so we actually have started adding more shoots at pruning phase.
Okay.
So you're adding more greenery. Well, it's technically less because you're adding more shoots, but you're reducing the greenery.
I see.
So, you know, you've got 3 canes instead of 2, and so it's sort of reducing your canopy size, so it allows more energy to go into the fruit and the bunches. So that's kind of where you fall into the trap of having sort of harsh green wines at 12.5% alcohol. Yeah. So that's probably the biggest learning curve, and it's, you know, it's actually nice to have it in a vineyard during harvest. It's like I don't have 2 days to make a picking decision.
Yeah.
So it's like we've got a week to make this decision.
So you're on a knife edge with the granite soils, and then
you can be, yeah.
And if there's more of a buffer here.
Yeah.
With a heat spike with the granitic soil, if something's close to being ripe, you've got to go pick it. But with these soils, you can leave it for a week, let the heat wave pass, and then go and check it again.
Yeah, right.
And be okay.
And
well,
stylistically, like in the glass, what does that sort of iron-rich, heavier soils bring to the wine, do you think?
I just think it gives it like this lovely sort of broody, like meaty and savoury character to it. A bit more of a dark tone.
Olivaceous as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like the Fora we used to make was much more of that sort of high tone red fruit, bright, whereas this has got that sort of much more sort of base level to it, which I love in Syrah. You still have that sort of lovely, pretty aromatics from the whole bunch fermentation.
And is it 100% whole bunch?
100%, yeah.
Okay. And is this in concrete now, or is it going to concrete? What's the...
Concrete now. So this is the last vintage that will be using barrels.
So this is 100% old barrels.
Yeah.
So essentially made similar to the Chardonnay once it's in barrels.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah. So aged in 500 litre barrels.
Yeah.
Whereas 23 onwards, it's concrete.
Okay. Okay.
But
Interesting. So why the change there? You, again, looking for some more precision, more compact fruitness? Or
it's been one of the ones we've always wanted to have in concrete.
Okay.
It's just been a matter of logistically getting concrete for it, if that makes sense. Yeah. But now we finally have, which is good.
And the 23 will be concrete? Or is concrete? Okay.
And it's looking good.
Yeah.
So how many of these concrete half eggs do you have?
So we've got 4
big boys?
big square 5,000
Cubes.
litre,
Yeah.
which for Cinsault and Pinot Gris. And then we got the trapezium, what do you call it?
whatever it is. So it's a three. We basically bought it.
For the Shannon.
It's 3,000 litres. That's kind of like what we get in a normal year from the Caribbean Shannon. So we just bought a volume to suit that. And then we've just got a small 2,500 litre octagon-y looking thing. You've probably seen them.
They're like diamonds, that little...
Yeah, weird looking things for the Syrah. So that's kind of what we get from the Syrah vineyard as well. So we don't have that many.
Sensor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not Bernie, Lukey.
Lukey. Yeah, so it's a motley crew of concrete floating around our cellar. Yeah.
Yeah.
All in different corners.
And how did you find this vineyard? I mean, obviously you're not in Devon Valley, I wouldn't think that much.
Pinot Gris grower.
Okay.
Yeah, so he runs a few different farms, but this is his like home-based farm.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's kind of, if you, I don't know how well people know Devon Valley, but it's, you drive down that road and before you take that big sweeping left towards JC LaRue.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got Kaiberg on your right, and then there's another one.
On the way to the Devon Valley Hotel.
Yes.
That's
So it's
the vineyard.
up on the right. Yeah,
And
that
that we
place.
understand. We never go to JC LaRue.
Yeah. So it's just after Renaissance up the right. Like if you go over the hill, you're basically in Carmundi.
Isn't everything in Devon Valley on the way to Devon Valley Hotel?
Yeah.
It's not a bigger place, is it?
No.
Sometimes it's on the way home.
Yeah.
It's like in Bot River, every road leads to Luddite somehow. I don't know how that works.
Or Manny's.
You always find yourself there, even after Manny's.
Yeah.
Fill up with some delicious chicken and then bang down some 15% Shiraz. Very cool. And so Syrah, looking sort of for inspiration outside of your wines, are you looking for local inspirations or majority? I mean, obviously you said California was an inspiration for the Pinot Gris. Is that the same here?
California was probably the
Yeah.
biggest inspiration, I think, for Syrah.
Okay.
I mean, obviously Northern Rhone, we adore drinking.
But you both worked in California, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a lot of
Did you
young...
work together or?
Yeah.
We have once.
Once.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Worked out so
We're
well, we started a
together
business.
And had children together.
Well, that bit's easy.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes fun. There was I'm sure a lot of you have heard about, the whole California movement that started happening, 10, 15 years ago, which was very similar to what happened here. It was like pretty amazing how parallel the two sort of new wave vibes were happening. And we happened to, get caught up in it a bit 10, 15 years ago.
So right place, right time, essentially?
Yeah, and there's a couple of outstanding sort of Syrah producers right on the coast, Sonoma coast, where the climate is, you wouldn't even think it's California. I mean, you're picking Syrah in November, which is the equivalent of
right.
May
Yeah.
here.
And
So it's cold,
And it's
cold,
11% alcohol.
Yeah, so it's just getting there. Yeah, right.
So I mean,
Crazy.
just great expressions of that real sort of olive tapenade, herbal sort of.
And
That's
all
when.
whole bunch.
Yeah,
So a lot
okay.
of people working whole bunch.
So it's pretty much our first exposure to wine like that outside of bloody Barossa, really.
Yep, okay.
Yeah.
Or Stellenbosch. So it's very, completely opposite.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this is what this grape can actually do.
Yeah.
And then obviously we got exposed to the wonderful world of Northern Rhone, and so that's kind of what took us on a
There's also a lot of whole
Syrah.
bunch.
Yeah.
People work with whole bunch a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just love the texture of this wine. And it has that sort of almost like terracotta sort of tannins. They're not. Yeah, there's a real nice give to them. I really love the suppleness of this wine. Yeah, really generous. But
I've always loved the tannin structure of this wine, this vineyard. Something about it every year.
Because it's not that sort of super gravelly coffee clip sort of
No.
raspy
Irony.
tannins.
Yeah.
There's a real
No.
sort of pillowy sort of character to them, which is lovely. Yeah, really, really lovely.